My name is Lena Hargrove. I'm 63 years old, and I never thought I'd be saying these words aloud. I never expected anything in my life to unfold the way it did. Not at this age. Not in this way. And yet here I am. For most of my life, I lived quietly. Not unhappily. Just quietly. I like things calm. Predictable. My books. My garden. A cup of tea at the same time every morning. A soft-spoken man named Robert, who became my husband. We met in our late 40s, both of us a little bruised by earlier marriages, both looking not for lightning, but for shelter. And we found that in each other. He had 2 grown children from his first marriage. I had 1 daughter of my own. By the time we got together, we weren't raising kids anymore. We were just trying to build something warm and steady out of what was left. A blended family, yes, but not a loud or chaotic one. Our children had their own lives. Our holidays were pleasant, not messy. We sent cards, not ultimatums. It worked. His son, Thomas, had a boy, Ethan. My step-grandson, technically. But titles don't mean much when time and distance stretch the ties thin. I met Ethan maybe 4 or 5 times over the years. Thanksgiving, Christmas, a birthday party once where everyone brought store-bought cake and left early. He was always quiet, always polite. The kind of boy who wore his headphones around his neck, not in his ears. Like he was waiting to hear something else. He had these eyes. Deep eyes. Thoughtful. A little too old for his face. I remember thinking once that he looked like he was trying to keep a secret he didn't understand. But beyond that, I didn't think much of him. He was just a teenager. Quiet. Courteous. Easy to forget. Then, a few months ago, everything changed. Thomas called. Said Ethan had started college here in our town. He'd been living in the dorms but couldn't afford to stay. Said the financial aid didn't cover enough, and things at home were tight. I could hear it in Thomas's voice strain. The kind that builds up over time, like water behind a dam. He didn't say much more. I didn't press. He asked if Ethan could stay with us for a little while, just until he got on his feet. I looked at Robert. He shrugged. We had the spare room. And Ethan was family. So I said, yes, of course. He can stay. He arrived on a cloudy Sunday afternoon with nothing but a worn duffel bag and a quiet thank you. He gave me a small hug and called me Miss Lena, which made me smile. There was something soft in his voice. Careful, like he was used to being overlooked. At first, it was easy. He kept to himself. Always tidy. Always respectful. Helped with the groceries. Took the trash out without being asked. He even offered to mow the lawn, and when I told him he didn't have to, he just said, I like the fresh air. He had this calm energy about him. Still but not distant. Like he was carrying some great weight inside him, but didn't want to let it show. I'd catch him sitting outside sometimes, staring at the trees, not doing anything. Just sitting there, quiet. I started watching him more. Just little glances. I don't know why. Maybe I was curious. Maybe I was lonely. He was a puzzle, and I'd always liked puzzles. Then one weekend, Robert went out of town to visit his daughter in Seattle. It was the first time I'd be alone in the house with Ethan. I didn't think much of it. That Friday evening, I made pot roast, an old family recipe. Ethan sat at the table and thanked me like I'd served him something fancy. This is amazing, he said, smiling. It wasn't flattery. It was sincere. He made me laugh. A real laugh. The kind I hadn't felt in a long time. After dinner, we watched a movie together in the living room. An old comedy from the 60s. Light and silly. But as the night went on, I started to feel something strange. Not bad. Just different. The room felt full. Not with tension, but with awareness. We talked. About music. About books. He asked me questions no one else ever asked. Not the usual ones, how's your garden, how's your health? But real ones. What did you dream of when you were my age? I told him about the art classes I used to take. About the novel I started writing in my 30s and never finished. About the way I used to imagine living in a small coastal town and painting all day. I told him about my daughter and how things between us had grown distant over the years. He didn't interrupt. Didn't offer advice. He just listened. And I didn't realize until that moment how long it had been since someone truly listened to me. That night, I couldn't sleep. So I crept down to the kitchen, barefoot. The moonlight was pouring in through the window, silver and soft. Ethan was already there, sitting at the table, eating leftover apple pie with a fork straight from the pan. He looked up and grinned. "Can't sleep either?" We sat together in that quiet glow, not talking much, just existing. And then he said, "You deserve more, Lena." I looked at him. "What do you mean?" He said, "You give so much of yourself to everyone. You always have. But when's the last time someone gave something back to you? Something real?" I couldn't answer. He reached out and placed his hand over mine. Gentle, steady, warm. I didn't pull away. Nothing happened. Not in the way people would assume. But something inside me cracked open. Over the next few weeks, something shifted. Subtle at first. I started waking up earlier, just to enjoy the light. I made us coffee. We took evening walks. He asked me how my writing was going, and I told him I hadn't started. The next day, he left a blank notebook on the kitchen table. "Just in case," he said. Then one afternoon, I fell in the garden. Twisted my ankle trying to pull up a stubborn root. Ethan ran to me and scooped me up without hesitation. Carried me inside like I weighed nothing. Sat me on the couch and wrapped my foot with an ice pack, his hands so careful it made my breath catch. After that, he did everything. Cooked dinner. Folded laundry. Brushed the dog. He didn't act like it was a chore. He just cared. And I began to change. I started writing again. Just small things. A few pages. Then more. I opened my old paints and began to sketch in the sunroom. My hands were shaky at first, but the colors felt alive in my chest. One morning, Ethan looked at me and said, "You're glowing." I didn't know what to say, so I just smiled. When Robert came back, I welcomed him like always. But something inside me had grown. Not away from Robert, but toward myself. I was beginning to live again. Eventually, Ethan moved out. Found a part-time job. A little apartment close to campus. Before he left, he handed me a small package. Inside was a plain notebook. On the front, written in careful ink, were the words, "Start again." He said, "I think you've got stories to tell. Don't stop now." I didn't say anything, just hugged him, tightly, gratefully. And he was gone. Life went back to normal. But I didn't. I wrote. I painted. I laughed more. I called old friends and told them I missed them. I started feeling again. People might hear this and think they know what happened. But they don't. There was nothing shameful here. Nothing scandalous. What Ethan did was far more powerful than anything physical. He saw me. He reminded me of who I used to be, before the quiet years settled in. And because of that, I began again. So no, I never imagined my step-grandson would change my life. But I thank God he did, because he brought me back to life.